Hey, y'all. You know, I cut that intro short because I was ready to talk. Happy Wednesday, y'all. Welcome to Mission for Mental Health. I'm your host, Jackie Robinson. Man, I missed y'all. I have missed you all. I haven't seen y'all in a while. And I had to cut the intro short because I was ready to talk. I'm ready to get into this thing. I got a couple great guests for y'all. Y'all know my story about my daughter who suffers from. She was diagnosed with schizophrenia. I don't know if suffering from is the correct words, but she was diagnosed with schizophrenia, and it's just been such a journey. And I never have really known anyone who has lived successfully or anything after a diagnosis like that. But guess what? God done sent me some folks, y'all. God done sent me some folks. So I have some good guests. I'm going to bring them on because I want them to start talking. I want our whole hour used up by them. I have Bretta and I have her sister, Tina. Hold on. Let me find it. They backstage. They in the back. Not in my back, but they in the back. They in the backstage. So hold that thought. Hold on. I'm coming. Hold on. I'm going to have to tell y'all a story about why I'm looking at y'all crazy because I got a webcam. We're gonna do better next week because I got a big monitor coming, but work with your girl. So when I'm looking to the left, looking to the right, just know it's only because I don't usually work with a webcam. Hey y'all.
Hey.
Hi.
Welcome to Mission for Mental Health.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. I'm so excited for you all to be here. Like I was saying when you all were in the back, like not in the back, but in the back where folks could with my journey, you know, I have a daughter who was diagnosed with schizophrenia, and I have a couple friends whose children have been diagnosed with schizophrenia or schizoaffective disorder and things like that. And we feel like life is like this is it for our kid. Like this is it. We're gonna have to take care of this person for the rest of our lives because we don't think there ever can be successful. Like there's not necessarily a cure, but enough treatments available to allow them to maneuver through society like the rest of us, right? Until I got that phone call. Till I got that phone call from my good girlfriend. She prays for me all the time. Who is a mutual friend of yours and mine, brother. Right?
Yes.
And I get this phone call and she says, "Oh my God, Jackie, I have someone I need you to meet." And I'm like, okay, you know, I got a man, so I know you ain't hooking me up with no man. Like, who do you need me to meet? And she introduces me to you, brother.
Mm-hmm.
And we have this conversation, and I'm just in shock the whole time we're on the phone as you're sharing your story with me.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm in shock. And then you start telling me about your sister, Tina. And I didn't even know when you agreed to do the show that she was coming on too. So I was like, I wanted to ask, like, do you think your sister would do it too? But you know, because everybody doesn't want to necessarily be on the street or anything like that. So when you said, I said, now which picture of yours do you want me to use? You like, girl, that's me and my sister. I was like, oh,
That's how she does me.
Won't he do it? So I so humbly appreciate you all for coming on and sharing. So, Bretta, like I told you, when you was in the back, I'm gonna ask you, how did mental health enter your life?
Okay. It happened in 2022. I attended a church conference in Washington, D.C. And I don't know what was in the air or what people
was 2002.
Was it 2000? What did I say?
You said 2022.
Oh, I meant 2002. See, that's why you're here. Gosh, I need you. It was 2002, so I have to back that up.
Yes.
So it was in 2002 that I attended this church conference, and my eyes were just opened up to so much stuff. And so I came back to Philadelphia with my daughter and me. We were living there by ourselves, no family support, nothing. So that's one of the things that I did wrong. in my life.
You're saying moving by yourself was something that you did wrong, moving away from family, moving
away from family with a 2-year-old daughter. So that was a lot of stress. And so I came back rejuvenated from the church conference. And when I came back, it was like, I don't know, like I started having these visions, like I could see things. And the more I talked, it was like chains and shackles were being broken off of the people I was speaking to. And so I said, okay, this is something that obviously I'm having some spiritual download. Something was going on that was leading me in that direction. And
so think that all this started from when you went to this church service?
Yes. Okay. That's where it came out. And when it came out, it came with a vengeance. I wasn't eating. I wasn't sleeping. You know, people were looking at me like, well, what's wrong? Something is wrong with you.
And she was spending money left and right.
What was I doing?
Spending money left and right. You were just writing checks. Like
I was, Miss Jackie.
I was.
Were you working at the time? Were you employed?
I was employed. I was at Lockheed Martin with a top secret clearance, and the people outside were protesting because they thought we were building bombs. And this is right around September 11th, 2002. And so I actually started to think that these people were after me because they thought that I was building bombs in Lockheed Martin.
Wow.
Yes. And so it just kept going on. I learned that it was called mania after the fact. I didn't know that's what it was before. And so like Tina said, you know, writing checks, reading the Bible, telling everybody that, you know, God is going to curse you and blah, blah, blah. Huh?
No, I was agreeing. I'm agreeing.
Okay. Yes. And so I got it, and it was bad. It was bad. And
it was bad on our end because I'm the type, I will call you. I will call you multiple times. I will call you multiple times if I can't find you. So with her going through all of that in Philadelphia, it started on our end, and I'm in North Carolina. I called her phone multiple times and someone answered. And that's how I found out that she had been admitted to the hospital. And then my next question was, where's my niece? So someone else had my niece. Mm-hmm. So it's just like immediately we knew we had to get on the road and drive to Philadelphia.
How did you know, Tina, that she was spending like lots and lots of money? Did you know
the checks? Like I think she had like the carbon copies of the checks, because once we got there, initially we went to the, I think we got a room. Well, my husband had to drive all the way because I was a wreck. So he drove all the way. Baby. I'm the strong one but we drove, and that was like my very first time ever going to an institution because that's where they had her. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, we go in and immediately they're asking us questions like, you know, has she shown signs of this before? And it's like, no, like Bretta was normal. Bretta was Bretta, Miss Aggressive. I can do everything. I'm always on the go. So like there were no signs that something was wrong.
Right. So Bretta, about how old were you at this time?
24.
24 years old? Okay.
28.
Are you sure?
So, who's the older sister?
I'm the oldest one.
How many sisters? How many of you all is it?
It's 4 in total.
4 siblings? Okay. Mm-hmm. And Tina, you're the oldest of the 4?
Yes.
Or where you fit in the stack? Bretta, are you the baby of the bunch? Where do you fit in? You're number 3.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's 2 and a 4. So you're 1 and 3, and then 2 and 4. Okay. Mm-hmm.
And then my mother had it in her mind that she wanted to marry a man with 6 kids. So it's 10 of us all together.
Yeah, because we have some step siblings as well.
Yeah, it's
10 of us all together.
So
it's 10 of you. Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
So it's 10 of y'all all together. So so you're 24 years old, you're in Philadelphia, you're working for Lockheed, you went to this church service. Something happened in this church service. And then you're thinking, your mind is telling you that these people out here protesting about these bombs being made at Lockheed, but you're thinking it's got something to do with you. Yes. And then you also mentioned the mania. Were you diagnosed with bipolar disorder or anything?
Yes, they initially said I had bipolar disorder, and I kept that diagnosis for about 2 years, and I was having manic episode after manic episode, and it was later determined it was called rapid cycling. And with that rapid cycling, I just was in and out of institutions. You know, 1 minute they would let me out, things were good, and then I would stop taking the meds and I was back in it again. So that I've been in 16 different times institutionalized, and so I paid my dues, Miss Jackie.
Yeah, that's a lot of times. My daughter, she was institutionalized like 14 times in 2 years.
Yes.
So I understand what that's like. So we're 24. How do we end up back in Georgia?
They told me that either I was going back to Georgia. Thank God for my stepfather who put his foot down. And we don't agree with everything, but on that one, he did his thing. He did it,
and he had to, because they were trying to keep her, which I didn't understand. They were trying to keep her institutionalized in Philadelphia, even though we told them, like, she has no family, she has no one here. Right. It would be best for her to go with her family. Right. But yeah, he had to pull some strings to get her relocated because they weren't going to let her go.
So is this those 15 hospitalizations, that's through your lifetime, or
yes. Yeah, it was through from 24. On my last episode was in 2018.
Okay.
Yes.
Awesome. So let me ask you this: they're giving you the medication, and the medication isn't working, or no?
Or I'm just not taking it because I think that I'm better than schizophrenia or bipolar or any mental health issue. That's just not me. You know, I'm Miss Thing who bought her first house when she was 21 years old, and I own my own real estate company, and you know, I was investing for other people, and it wasn't my thing.
And the bottom line was she was in denial. Wow. It was a denial that there was anything wrong and that she could just manage everything on her own.
Yes.
So dad goes and picks you up from Philly and says, bring it on back, because we ain't Eagles fans. So bring it on back. Bring it on back down to the South. And so do you all come to Georgia or someplace else?
South Carolina.
South Carolina.
Yeah.
All right. And so what is life like when you get back to South Carolina?
Well, they were experimenting with the medication, because most oftentimes you'll find that people have been on several different meds before they get to the one that works. So what they did was they put me on some high-powered stuff, but none of it was working because I was still having the manic episodes. And it wasn't until, I don't know what year it was, but one of the manic episodes, I ended up going to the hospital. And remember, Tina, that was when the lady said, I think it's schizophrenia. I don't think it's bipolar.
That was
it took another eye to see that, you know, it was a little bit heavier than bipolar disorder.
Right. So all this time they're treating you for bipolar disorder, but you're still were you having any type of delusions or hallucinations or anything like that?
I have those. In fact, I still have those. But you got to come up with a way to not allow that to get the best of you, I guess is what I'm saying. When I have the hallucinations, it's like I think that I see. Do you remember the movie Ghost? And in Ghost, they had those black shadows that kept coming to Whoopi Goldberg and
Demi Moore and all them.
Demi Moore,
Making him try to play, and she thought he was behind her, but he wasn't.
Yes, yes, that's what I had. And so I have that in the auditory hallucinations where I hear voices.
Yes.
I still hear the voices, but I either I have to talk back to the voices, or I need to turn the music up real loud to drown the voices, or have to come up with some way to communicate, that I'm not going to do what you're telling me to do.
I think it's under control. That's what I would say. I think she can control it more now than she could in the past.
Right.
With the help of the meds, I think she has the right balance, but she's able to control it. But like sometimes you have to keep an eye on Sabretta because she gets to doing too much. I mean, she's super aggressive, highly intelligent, but sometimes I have to tell her you got to step back because there may be concerns that you're on the edge.
Right.
Of an episode. And we just had this conversation, like you need to pull back, slow it down. Just take it slow because we don't want you to go back to another institution.
Right. So when you moved back here, moved to South Carolina, how did you get to a point where you were able to open a real estate company? How were you able to do that?
For me to say crazy, that's like that's really pushing it. But that's just her nature. She is super aggressive, very intelligent, and she's just a go-getter. I'm the conservative one. She'll just step out and make it happen. Once she sets her mind to it, she's just going to do it. So regardless of what's going on, if she's focused enough, she's going to make it happen.
Wow. So even with the diagnosis, and I'm assuming at the time when you opened the real estate company, we hadn't gotten to the schizophrenia just yet. It's still being treated as bipolar, right?
Yes.
I think you told me that you got married and all this stuff. Successful company. So we're in South Carolina. Because dang, you had to get a real estate license and stuff. So you had to go to school and everything.
I did.
Yeah.
It was like, you go through periods when the mental illness actually makes itself known. And then you go through certain periods where you are okay without medication. Because you start thinking that you're better and you're bigger than any medication. And I did that for about 4 years? 3 or 4 years I went without taking any medication. The real estate business was not probably the best thing to get into because it was highly stressful. I was pulling 80-hour weeks, had no time for the husband, no time for the daughter. I was driven, and being driven like that, you unfortunately don't have a handle on the mental illness. And it took me having a manic episode to bring it back up to, my attention that something is wrong.
Right. Wow. How did your husband, girl, you done landed you a husband with this mania, with this spending habit. You have landed a husband.
Let's just say he hung in there, and he's still like family to us right now, even though they went through it. He's still family to us. Did
he know, or did he just say, man, my wife, she just live. She just a live one, or did he know about, because I'm always curious to know, how the spouse works with this. How do you just not know about it? Do you think, well, we just gonna pray this out, or this is my wife, it's just her, or man, it really is something different with my wife that I need to learn about?
By the time that recognition came up, he was already gone.
He was gone.
The marriage worked when it worked, but like all marriages, everything is not perfect. So when the imperfect times actually came up, I would withdraw. And so he knew about the bipolar. He did not know I was not taking medication. And so he did the best he could. He did the best he could under the circumstances, because I'm talking to you nice and calm now, but once you're in mania, you turn into a completely different person.
Very different. Like one who tried to fight her sister.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Tina, what does that look like, Tina? What does that look like?
I can tell you many stories, but like I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina. And at the time she was in South Carolina. Mm-hmm. And I always knew when she was in mania or headed that way, because I knew, because she's so computer savvy. She would send out text messages, emails, Facebook postings would be like gibberish, like they made no sense. So when I see that, I know, okay, it's time for me to go. I got to drive to South Carolina, because not only am I seeing this, I'm getting text messages, emails, just say from our village, like say, hey, something is going on with Bretta. Uh-huh. So Bretta has threatened to kill me. Bretta would say the most hurtful things to friends and other family members. Mm-hmm. Like I said, she tried to fight me before to take my car. And now I am the big sister, but she's the little big sister. And I was fighting for my life.
Yeah. Right.
But it's just like, you have to remember, this is not my sister. There's something going on. And you have to try to put it aside. And it's hard, because there were plenty of nights I cried, when I would see the text messages that she would send out. They were just like, they were hateful. But at the end of the day, I knew that wasn't my Bretta.
Right.
I knew something else is going on, and we just got to get her help. And trying to be proactive with medical or police, it doesn't work. Because there were times that we would call and say, this is going on. We know she has a problem. Could you admit her or come and pick her up? And their answer would always be, unless she hurts herself or someone else, there's nothing they can do.
Because she's an adult.
We
just can't just take people and throw them, and lock them away because you want to. Let me read a couple comments. You have Lalita. Lalita says, Bretta and Tina are my cousins, and I'm so proud of them. Love you, ladies. Thanks, Miss Robinson, for your platform. You are so welcome. Nia Elise, great conversation. Cassius Radford, hello. Lalita says, Bretta has a strong tenacity and incredible brain power. Mm-hmm. Karen says, I find schizophrenia very interesting. Are there different? Oh, this is a good question.
Different levels?
Yep. Hold on one second, Karen. And we're going to get to that question. Give me 1 second and let me get out of the bipolar into the schizophrenia. And then we'll a little bit, we family, we talk like that, Other folks might be offended, like, did she just say it? Well, look, we all going through this thing here. We are all going through this thing. But Tina, thank you, because I know as the caregiver as well, my daughter has said some very mean, hurtful, crazy things to me that any mama, I mean, I'm the mama, and you talking to me like I'm just some trick on the street, I get that. And you find with mental health, the loved ones bear a lot of the pain, because we're the ones who genuinely love you and care for you. These other people around
don't care
2 cents about you. We are the ones. So Tina, I applaud you and I understand. So Bretta, moving back to so the real estate company was extremely stressful. Your husband knew about the bipolar but did not know about the schizophrenia. So let's move into where you have to, do you have, and I know you mentioned you have one daughter. Do you have more than one child or just the one?
Just one, Nia Elise.
And Nia Elise. That was her to comment.
Oh, because guess what? She said, go, Mommy and Tina. I wouldn't be who I am without you both. So Nia is on here leaving comments.
There she goes.
So let's move into how, and I want to know from Nia too, like what that was like growing. Oh, I wish I could have got Nia on here too. What that was like to grow up with a mom with a mental health diagnosis. But anyway, so let's move forward to how we get to the diagnosis of schizophrenia.
Okay. I was in a hospital called Trident Hospital in North Charleston, South Carolina. I just left my townhouse and I had, things in my hand and didn't have shoes on, just, walking around looking crazy.
Do you remember this, or is it something somebody told you?
No, I remember it.
Okay.
I remember it. And the funny thing about it is a lot of the manic episodes, I can recall what I was doing, what I was saying, who I was doing it to, but you couldn't stop it. It was like an uncontrollable force or something that was behind me. And you're doing wrong. You're saying mean and hurtful things to people, but you can't control it. It's like a beast of its own. And so when I was in Trident, that's when, how did she call you? Tina, how did you get on the phone for her to say that I don't think this is bipolar or schizophrenia?
It's probably because I kept calling you. And I probably was on the phone with you, and I think she may have taken the phone or something. That's how we started. We were on the phone together.
Okay. All right. So that was for bipolar, they gave me lithium. Lithium has done all sorts of things to my body, mess up my kidneys. I'm in stage 3 kidney failure right now because of the lithium that I was taking. It was they did like a history when they asked about family history, and I had found out that there were other people within my family who were also diagnosed with schizophrenia. And so they looked at the family tree and was like, well, look, auntie, cousin.
Wow.
So all of them were diagnosed, but it's not something that we really talk about.
Yeah, because what happens in my house, stay in my house.
Yes, that is it. And so
basically, Bretta has said she was damned from the start with all those people.
One y'all was gonna be.
I was. And the thing about it, Miss Jackie, is all of my family have different pieces of schizophrenia, but I'm the one who's diagnosed. But it runs throughout my family, and they like Tina should be on some medication herself because she's crazy.
Whatever.
She's legitimately crazy.
This is not about me. Yes.
So anyway, that particular stay in the hospital is when they actually said it was schizophrenia. And when I this was the time they took Plum. My sister and my parents took my daughter to Florida. They were on the way to take her to Florida. Now, Miss Jackie, that's the only thing I have left. The husband was gone. The business was gone. The money was gone. The only thing I had left was her. So, Tina, would you like to talk about what y'all was planning on doing?
Because we wanted my niece. We knew she couldn't come to me because Bretta could jump in her car and drive to North Carolina and take her. So we were just thinking about her well-being and into a more stable environment with her father. Well, this smarty lady, when we told her that Plum was going to be in Florida with her dad, she threatened all of us that she was going to call the police and have us charged with kidnapping. She was going to have us charged with kidnapping her daughter, my niece. So guess what? We had to reverse all of that around and get her back to South Carolina with her mother.
Wow.
So it's like she has the episodes, but she is still a part of her that can focus on what she wants to focus on. Like Nia, you can't touch her. And that was her focus. So she knew we removed her without her permission. So she threatened to have us arrested. So we had to change the whole course and bring Nia back to her.
Because she wasn't having that. And that's all she had left with her baby.
That was all I had left. And so the moment of clarity actually hit me that, you were trying to take her away from me. I'm not having that. And it turned out that what DHEC, the Department of Health and whatever it's called in South Carolina, they were going to come and intervene.
They were going to come and intervene because
they came out.
And so they
were going to come and intervene and take her.
Yes. So at that point, it was more, we were kind of in on it, Bretta, I guess you know now.
Yeah.
But we felt it was better for them to intervene, but let you feel that you still had control of the situation. Like you were making the decision to let her go. So at that point, I had to drive down, pick her up. Her dad flew into Charlotte, and she went to Texas for 5 years.
5 years.
That was a hurtful moment because I know what Bretta's saying. Like that, to me, that's all she had, and I felt, on the one hand, we were taking her away.
Your connection is not good.
Oh, on the one hand, we were taking her away, but we knew it was the best. It was going to be for the best.
Right.
And it worked out. Life has a funny way of working out, but it all worked out in the end. Because Nia is doing great things. She graduated the top of her class. She ended up coming back.
Right.
But she graduated at the top of her class, has a great job, getting ready to get married. She has excelled in every area possible. And I couldn't be more proud of her.
Right. And she's proud of y'all too. She probably crying. I bet she's crying. What y'all call it? Plum over there crying.
Yes.
Are you crying? Are you crying?
I'm talking about your daughter. I bet your daughter comes over there crying. I bet she's over there crying. So Bretta froze.
Yeah, Bretta. You froze. Okay.
So in those 5 years without your daughter, what was happening in your life? What was going on?
You're fading out, Miss Jackie. I can't hear what you're saying.
In those 5 years that you didn't have your daughter, I know that was hurtful for her to go with her dad. But what did you do for yourself within those 5 years? Tina, can you hear me?
Within those 5 years, I left South. I can hear you.
Okay.
I left South Carolina, and had to move in with my parents. Still was in and out of hospitals. That girl's my heart. She is my heart. And for her to be gone from me for 5 whole years, that tore me apart. But that was the awakening that I had, that you don't have your daughter anymore. I guess everybody has their trigger with that one thing that breaks the camel's back, and that was what did it for me. And I committed myself to doing better, taking these damn pills if I have to take pills for the rest of my life, whatever is needed to get my daughter back home.
Yeah.
And so, like Tina said, things just worked out so that she came back to me before She graduated from high school, and there was a little itsy bitsy left that I went through with her.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was it. They took her, and
But legally that time, she couldn't charge us with kidnapping or anything.
But she would have charged you with interference of custody. If y'all didn't have custody. So let me ask you this question. Karen wanted to know, are there different stages or levels to it? Are there different symptoms, different ways of acting? Do you understand her question?
Yes. No two people are diagnoses are the same. Like, I have a girlfriend of mine who's schizophrenic, and she has angelic voices. Her voices love everybody, hug everybody. They're very evil. They want to do evil things to people. I've never gotten to the point where I've harmed myself. Except once. I was actually riding down the road with my parents as I was having one of these manic episodes, and I grabbed the steering wheel and I turned it while we were driving down I-75 or I-20, one of those roads. And I grabbed the steering wheel, and they were like, okay, this is beyond us. We can't help you. We got to take you to the hospital. So there I was in Rockdale emergency room. And after that, they put me in Riverwood. I think it's Riverwood, Rivertown, something like that. So I went there, and Riverwoods and Riverdale. That's where I was. But that was the last time I had an episode. That's when they took me off the lithium. They put me on Haldol. And actually right now I still take Haldol, but I get an injection once a month. And so I would say that anybody who has schizophrenia, that they should try or be able to push getting the injection, because that means you don't have to take a pill every day. And so all I have to do is be in the mood to get the shot every month, and then it lasts for 30 days, and then I have to do it again. So to answer her question, there are different levels to schizophrenia. You can start off like me. I was rapid cycling, having these manic episodes back and forth. And now I can honestly say that when I feel like I'm not sleeping, which is one of my triggers, if I'm not sleeping, if I'm not eating, that's another one of the triggers. Ironically, to say that I went to that church conference, religion is a trigger for me. So you can imagine what it's like to be a Christian and knowing you can't really read the Bible the way it says, because you start thinking that you can do all things through Christ, which means that if I want to jump off this roof, I can jump
you want to walk on water.
If I can walk on water, I can walk on water. You say all things. So
well, let me know when you start to turn stuff into wine, so I can come by and get a glass.
Oh, that's Lolita too. So if I get to the point where I can turn water to wine, I'll definitely market that. But it does have its different levels, and it just depends upon how you can manage the symptoms, because we can laugh about some of the things that I've done.
Now we can.
We can laugh now.
We weren't laughing.
It wasn't funny. It wasn't funny at those times. But it's interesting that the family dynamic is, I can't imagine being schizophrenic and not having family, or not having somebody who can support you, or just someone who says it's going to be okay. That is hard. And that is where you would trigger, you can be triggered by anything and not have a Tina to tell you need to slow down, because we're concerned about you. Now, sometimes, Miss Jackie, it gets on my nerves, because I know when my limits are approaching, and Yeah, I'm not comfortable just being where I am on
Miss Jackie. I don't care. I don't care. We need you to slow down. We need you to bring it down a notch. But to piggyback off of what she said about having family, that is something we realized, like going to the different institutions when we had to have her admitted. And I remember when we had to take you to MUSC, downtown Charleston, and it was me, Mike, your ex-husband, and Edmund, my husband. And we were out waiting in the hallway, and the doctors finally came out, and he commended us. He said, because it's great that you guys are here supporting her. He said, because a lot of families, they drop off their relative, their loved ones, and that's just it. They don't support, they don't come back. So I don't know, just hearing that, and I've heard it multiple times. It's just like, it's too much.
It's a lot.
It's a lot for a family
to deal with. And you know, I think that's why we have a lot of people with schizophrenia on the streets, because you can only come tear up my house but so many times.
Yes.
Or like even with an example with mine, I have 5 kids. And even though they're all adults, you know, I still had one younger, and I got my daughter who has, you know, who's coming over here tearing my house down. We fighting, screaming. Got my mama, she 80 years old, trying to get in the middle of the fight, and just so much that, you know, you have to decide. It felt like I had to sacrifice this one. It just hurts.
I know. Yeah.
Sacrifice this one for everybody else.
Yeah.
So it's hard as the family to it's hard as the family to stick to it, to stick with it. And we have not abandoned my daughter. Trust and believe. We still are down like 4 flats for her to this day. But it is challenging, especially when you have somebody who's like, ain't nothing wrong with me. It's something wrong with y'all. Ain't nothing wrong with me. You know? So you're like, girl, this is not normal, you know. And so I get it. As I see on both ends, it is helpful to the patient when family is there to support, but it is detrimental to the patient when the family has given up.
Yes.
You know, and everybody's different. I don't judge anyone for their decision, because I've seen it and I get it. I know it's like having a stealing, thieving crackhead in your family. You know, they come over and they steal all your stuff, and they, you know, coming in late night and just interrupting the home. You know, and so I get it, but you want to help them as much as you can. You know, and insurance don't make it no easier. The like you were saying, how you were trying to call the police and get help, but because she's an adult,
they're not gonna do anything.
They're not doing nothing. So I understand that. I so get it. So,
and I really do think that people, like some of the things Bretta did, like if you would have told me that before I actually experienced, I'd be like, nah, you lying. You know, like you have to live with it. You have to be in it to believe some of the craziness, some of the, you know, like just how extreme it can get. But once again, you have to remember, she's not herself.
She's not herself.
It's the mania. It's the mental illness that's taking over. And you have to constantly remind yourself of that. But yeah, some of the things that Bretta has done, like if you were just to tell me that I was a regular Joe Blow on the street, I'd be like, you lying. It's just no way.
There's no way. What movie you talking about, honey?
Exactly.
You talking about the movie Ghost? Because there's no way. Up in the comments. So Shawana, I'm assuming Shawana's a sister. And my sisters are my sheroes.
Oh.
My sisters are my sheroes. Nia responded to the question that I asked, and she said, I'm learning a lot as well. Growing up with a bipolar mother was fun at times and scary at others. I can imagine. Neva says, Nia is a beautiful young lady. Lalita says that Nia graduated from college before before graduating from high school?
She did.
He did.
This thing did.
You go.
This thing
You
did.
go. Neva said, wow, religion is a trigger. Karen is saying, I watched a documentary called Six Schizophrenic Brothers, and they made it seem like all schizophrenic are dangerous all the time. But another thing is that they wouldn't take their medication.
Yep.
Let me ask you about this. William gave us some prayer hands. William Sweeper gave us some prayer
That's a cousin.
That's a cousin.
You have a supportive family, so that's great. How's your dating life?
Woo-wee, ain't that funny? There is no dating life, not only because I'm very open with the mental illness. So, people know I'm schizophrenic and I don't try to hide that. But men are crazy, Miss Jackie. They taking you out these days, especially if you want a black man. You got put up with some things that you wouldn't normally do. So at this point, I have been celibate for 5 years, thank God. And I don't have any interest in them because they are crazy. Now I'm diagnosed and I take medication, but they are crazy. Legitimately crazy, and I don't have time for the foolishness.
Okay, so but prior to this revelation that men are crazy and need medication themselves, were you in the dating game at all? Were you trying to date a little bit, and if so, how was it? How did people respond? Well, forget the dating. How do people, just general people, respond when you talk to them about your diagnosis?
Mm-hmm. Because mental health is such a buzzword now, when you say mental health, mental illness, schizophrenia, bipolar, everybody is talking about it. And
Correct.
So whenever you get to the point where you're opening up and you're telling people that you're schizophrenic as well, then, it's like, are you really? So how are you able to, walk around and talk to me and, how are you able to do that? Because most of the people I know are wielding guns and knives and, ready to fight and homeless. And none of that is me. And so I know several friends of mine who also diagnosed, and that's not them either. And so there's a side of mental illness that needs to come out. And it needs to come out so that people know that, look, all of us are not doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Some of us are trying to do some pretty positive things in our lives.
Yes. And
that you can still be productive. Like you can still function. You don't have to be all of those negative things. You can still function in society. Like just talking to Bretta, you would never know. If she didn't open up and tell you, you would never know, oh, she's been diagnosed with this illness.
Yeah. And that was my perception.
Mm-hmm.
My perception prior to was, when I think schizophrenia, I automatically go to paranoid schizophrenia.
Yeah.
That's prior to my own having to getting knowledge about it.
Right.
Prior to me having knowledge, anytime you mention schizophrenia, it's like, to me, it's the worst on the spectrum. Mm-hmm. And I'm automatically thinking, you better keep one eye open because you about to get a shotgun somewhere. I know because that you just automatically go to paranoid schizophrenia. Mm-hmm. Everybody does not have paranoid schizophrenia. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted you on this show, because I want people to see that you can live with this diagnosis. Mm-hmm. If you choose to.
If you choose to.
Neva said, do you know or can you feel the mania coming on? If so, can you take medicine before you get into a full mania stage?
Ooh. I've had that argument with some of my caregivers. If you know what's coming on, is there not a shot that I can take myself? Because when you go to the hospital, more than likely they're going to give you Haldol anyway, just to bring you down to a point where you're manageable. Then they're going to ship you off to the institution where you're going to stay for the next 3 to 8 to 10 days before you're able to work out whatever it was you were going through. So there is, I remember Tina tried to make me take, some of the pills. In the midst of mania, she would try to shove the pill down my throat. I'd spit it back out, So there is,
she give you a Narcan shot.
I don't know, just anything by any means necessary.
So there by the time you get into full-blown mania, it's too late. You're going to have to go to the hospital, and they're going to have to give you the prescription level that you're going to need because of your weight and your height and all this other stuff they take into consideration that actually gives you the medication to bring you down to where they can manage you. Yeah. Right now, if I feel like mania is coming on, I might just double up on trazodone. And trazodone is one of the medications that make you sleep. And so I might get to a docile state where I'm able to sleep, and the next day it's like it never happened. So if you get to a point where you can actually work the mania down on your own, and you can do that with de-escalation techniques, which is what the police typically use whenever you've gone too far. They can de-escalate the situation. Oh, and that was another thing. I have been in jail. No secret about that. What was it?
Was that when you had the car in the grocery store's parking lot?
Yeah.
Stories we could tell.
I went to jail for vandalism and assault. Jail is not a place for mental ill people, because if you're already in the manic state, you can't control me. So the only place you're going to end up putting me is in solitary confinement, or you're going to put me in a punishment chair and, put face mask on you and tie you down and you can't move. That is inhumane to have someone who is mentally ill and have them in a jail setting.
But at the same time, it is inhumane, but they are not trained properly. I just don't think they have the proper training to handle those situations.
Yeah, of course, because jail is not a hospital.
It's not.
Yeah. Daryl Alexander says, I have a brother I have been struggling with for over 30 years with this. He finally got helped and diagnosed a few months ago. I know this family, and I hope my story turns out as good.
Oh, that's my coworker.
Daryl, we're going to pray for your family too. Because I know it's challenging. 30 years is a long time.
That's a long time.
Jeez, I ain't 32, so I know.
No. Come on, Miss Jackie.
It's so nice to know you have a supportive family. That was from Karen. Neva said, I agree. I talk with Bretta a lot, and I was shocked when she told me she was manic, that she was manic. Bretta is thriving. William says, question for my wife, Renee.
Okay.
Is schizophrenia brought on by depression or vice versa?
I think that schizophrenia is not brought on by depression, but once you are schizophrenic, you will experience depression because you have highs and you have lows just like everybody else. But yours tend to, when it's low, it's really low. When it's high, it's really high. And so, matter of fact, I take medication for depression too. So, and I take it for anxiety also. So you tend to have multiple diagnoses, and they can work. Yeah, they can actually work in concert with each other. But just for that specifically, I don't think depression triggers schizophrenia. But like I said, when you're schizophrenic, you have depression.
Depressive states. But is that for everybody?
No. Remember, no two people have the same diagnosis. It's different for everyone.
So that would be challenging medicating, because if you have schizophrenia, bipolar, anxiety, depression, how do we find out we have all the diagnosis? How we got all this going on? Well, I guess that's the clinical question, huh?
That's I'm trying to get my my therapist to come on your show too, because she can speak about it from the therapeutic standpoint, whereas
Right.
I'm the consumer.
Right.
I know me, and I know some of the people around me who also have the diagnosis.
Yeah.
But to say that once you have multiple mental illness diagnoses, they're going to experiment. That's what they do. They practice medicine, and they're going to experiment various meds to see if, okay, if I do this, then this may happen. And if this happens, then this can trigger this. And so you take medication based upon that. And unfortunately, the meds don't all work together. And so you've taken the medication for one thing that causes you 10 other things to happen.
My
And
Lord.
so you're damned if you do and damned if you don't.
But when you get that combination,
that's working. Yeah.
When you get it, you can go to 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 6 years. It's been 6 years since I've had a manic episode.
But it did take them a while to get her there, because there were points where she was like zombie-like. So you knew the medication was too much. They didn't have that balance. You know, her speech, it's like she had to think, and she would pause, then she would say what it is that she was trying to say. So you can tell the difference. Like, Bretta's fine now, but you can tell it took them some time to find that balance for her to function like normal Bretta.
Right. But you did say, Bretta, that you still hear the voices.
I still do.
So will that ever go away?
I don't think it ever will. Like I said, when I hear the voices, it's something called command voices, where they tell you to do things. Certain voices you hear, and they're just conversational. But when I get into my phase, they're command voices that tell me to do things like, hit her, drive off the road, all kinds of things that I have to actually talk myself down. So when you see people talking, they're not crazy. They're talking to the voices in their head, because that's the only way I know how to silence them. Like I said, also I listen to music and I turn it up really loud so that it can flood out the voice. Certain people that you talk to can either trigger it or help you bring it down. Like, I have my support network of people who have the diagnosis. And so they look out for me whenever I'm sending crazy emails or when I'm sending text messages. Girl, I understand what you're going through. Just relax. It's going to be okay. And sometimes, though, that's all you need to hear.
Yeah.
But like I said, sleep is a wonderful thing. If you could sleep it off and wake up the next day, it's just as fresh as it can be and not have, any remnants of the day before.
Wow. Tamala says, my brother had seizures. He used to have episodes where he is a different person. Every time he had an episode, he always thought I was either Jesus or an angel. Mm-hmm. I was the only one he would listen to. Mm-hmm. Shawana said, Bretta, what type did D'Angelo have?
He was paranoid. I have a cousin, or I had a cousin who was paranoid schizophrenic. Mm-hmm. He was obsessed with the mob, and what else did Tutu do? He said the mob and gangs.
Yeah.
And he thought we were all descendants of Sicily. But he had it bad. He was actually institutionalized for 20 years. So can you imagine 20 years of your life from when you were 20 years old on up to, in your 40s in a mental institution? And unfortunately, when he got out, he went to a boarding house And before you know it, he had a conflict with somebody else who was in the boarding house, and the guy killed him. So God rest his soul. He's not here anymore. And so this is where people, they experiment on you. He should not have been left out in a boarding home from 20 years in a psychiatric institution. That's just a transition that you didn't do very well.
Right.
And so lo and behold, this is the verdict. This is what happened to him. And so he had paranoid schizophrenia, Tika.
Paranoid schizophrenia. Tamala said, we knew he was, I think she's still talking about her brother. We knew he was taking his meds. His eyes became glossy, and he would smile a great deal and would be very close to your face. He would be very close to your face. Shauna said, can you say with this TBI, I have that? TBI?
What's TBI?
I don't know, Shauna. Tell us a little bit more what you're asking. Karen said, I hear you tell us your experience. I notice you have learned good strategies and help you maintain a good quality of life.
Yes.
How can we reduce the stigma associated with schizophrenia?
People like me need to come out and start talking, because the news is not short in reporting crazy stuff that people do. But for those of us who are diagnosed and who are thriving, we're not suffering. You know, we might have a setback. So what? Everybody else has setbacks too. So it's not like yours is any worse or any better than other people. And so when you get to a point where you can actually talk about it without crying, without, thinking, hey, go my shadow over to the left of me and it's talking to me. When you get to that point where you can actually speak on it, you got to speak on it. And so what you're doing, Ms. Jackie, is a very powerful thing for the community at large, because it lets people know what is and what isn't. And so, also, you don't want to get to a point where you're so comfortable with a schizophrenic and then you go up and you talk to somebody on the street and before you know it, they slap the piss out of you.
Yeah, you done got your head knocked off.
Yeah, you done got your head knocked off. Well, brother didn't hit me. So, that's one of the things you got to learn when you're dealing with people who have the diagnosis, that all of us are different.
Can you tell us a little bit about the support group?
My family.
That's your only support group is the family?
Oh, no, I do have what is it called? The schizo something. Mm-hmm. And they have calls every day at certain hours where you can actually speak to your other people who have the same diagnosis as you do, and they just walk through how to have a better day the next day. So I can send that to you if whoever's asking about it. I can send that to Miss Jackie, and Miss Jackie.
I was asking. I was asking because I just recently learned about it.
Yes.
I had no idea. Another guest that we have coming on next month. She has schizophrenia as well. She's going to talk about her journey. She's younger. She's a lot younger. And she was talking about her support group. And I'm like, a support group? Mm-hmm. Like, it's a bunch of y'all? And she's like, yeah. And I was like, really? Like I said, I'm like a lot of people. When I first hear about schizophrenia, I automatically would just go to paranoid schizophrenia and think, even though they may not have paranoid schizophrenia, I think people are like my daughter, like what I saw. Mm-hmm. But I'm finding everyone is not like that. Mm-hmm. Everyone is not like that. The reason why I wasn't putting the questions on the screen is because I can't see them because of my webcam. But I know something like, because y'all, the webcam is sitting right here on the keyboard. It says, do more podcasts and speaking engagement.
You know who that is.
That's my girl.
She wants you to do more speaking engagements, mommy.
Yes, darling.
Shauna said brain injury.
Oh, okay. That's my younger sister who had a brain injury from an accident that she had. So mental illness is physical and it's also spiritual and it's emotional and it's mental. So the physical side of the diagnosis, you can trigger things based upon what physiologically is happening to you. And it manifests itself in the form of a mental illness when it's something physically that is wrong. Like, your brain is not producing enough serotonin. And so because it doesn't produce enough serotonin, you actually can trigger, different mental illnesses. And so this is where you have to differentiate between what is physical and what is mental. And so I know what she's talking about is the brain injury that she had. Maybe it triggers something. And also, like I said, it's in the family. So it's in that bloodline. And just like we don't like to talk about wills and trusts, we don't like to talk about insurance. My family, I don't know what to say about them.
We're just slow. We're going to get it together. We're just slow.
So you got to talk about, you have to get it together because you all have girls that's going to have babies. So this is a conversation, just like when we talk about who had cancer in your family. Does anybody, do you have a history of cancer or breast cancer or, we got to find all that out because I don't want to be surprised.
Yeah.
Especially if I know y'all.
Yeah.
Some of us don't know our people, but when you know your people, you got to ask these questions. Okay, now who had the schizophrenia? I need to know who had it.
Who had that?
Because who had it? Like they call it the gout. Who had the schizophrenia? Who had the sugar? Because I know somebody had the sugar up in here. Who had it? These are questions that we have to talk about in our community and in our family because we are having babies.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And I'm gonna have me a grandson one day. So I gotta prepare for him to make sure y'all got y'all stuff together.
That's right. Yes, we need more of this. Speak on this more.
Yes. I agree with you, Ms. Jackie. It's good that you're doing this work for the community. It's good that you're reaching out. It's good that you're consistent. Every Wednesday?
Every other Wednesday, because I got to take a break.
Oh.
Okay, every other Wednesday.
Every other Wednesday. If I do this every Wednesday, it's like, but I do it every other Wednesday. It's a lot of mental health going on in the world.
Yes.
It is.
Yes, it is. So you're doing a good work. And that's how you get to the point where you can stop stigmatizing it by talking about it. We need to talk about it. Yes. And maybe if I knew that, schizophrenia ran in the family, maybe I would have been more proactive in my earlier years and not have gotten to the point that I'm at now. We talk about how I spent money and I'd be walking around town giving people $100 here, $50. Yes, ma'am, I did.
He was loose back then.
Not in the financial capacity to do that now.
Exactly.
But I'm going to get there. I'm coming back.
It's Karen asks, I know, can y'all see it on your screen? I just thought about this. How does aging affect schizophrenia?
Well, I had an auntie that had schizophrenia and she lived till she was in her 80s. So there is no, I'm on it. That's right, Lalita. Get on it now. So I had an auntie who had schizophrenia and she lived till she was in her 80s. It is said that we have shorter lifespans because of the medication that we take. And so, like I said, when you take meds, it might cure one thing, but you got 10 other things that might happen to you. And so that typically, our aging process is lower than other people's because of the meds we take.
Wow. Who would have thought? Schizophrenia is my new baby. never would have thought. If somebody would give me a crystal ball and said, you will be talking about schizophrenia in the future, I'd have been like, boy, bye. Somewhere with all that. But it is my new baby. It is very important to me to educate people about not just schizophrenia, but mental health and mental illness, period.
Right.
But schizophrenia is my baby because I'm learning. And I also agree that if I'm going to get through this without busting these tears, y'all, I'm going to do this because I put makeup on. See, I honestly believe that if my daughter was not ashamed of her diagnosis, that she would have received she's extremely smart. She would have received the help that she needed. I think she would have been more receptive, just like when people are told they have diabetes, you go ahead and take that insulin shot. You don't ask no questions. You don't change your diet. You don't do nothing. You just take that shot like it's nothing. I think that if people were not ashamed of their mental health, just because your brain got a little cold don't mean it can't be fixed.
Right.
Got a little sickness to it, don't mean it can't be fixed. Just like anything else. I think that if people weren't ashamed of it, that they would seek more treatment at an early age. And that is my goal. And that is the reason why I wanted you on here, because I want people to be able to learn and see, okay, I got this diagnosis. What we got to do next? What's next?
Right.
What do I need to do? I need some medicine and a counselor. What I need, what's next? And that's the purpose of this. And I appreciate you all so much. I did let it go over our time just because I felt that the topic was so important and the questions that people had were important. They'll be all right.
They will be.
I pay.
It's your show. It's
all right. We'll be all right. And I do appreciate you all. Jackie, did your daughter have
signs? And maybe you missed the signs.
People ask me that all the time, and I thought she was just bad. I didn't know much about mental health except for what I saw when I was at work. I didn't know about it. So a lot of things that she did as a kid, I thought it was just being a bad, defiant. I thought the girl really just didn't like me, to be honest.
Wow.
I just felt like she just did not like me. She preferred her father over me, which I still think she preferred her daddy over me. But that's a girl thing. But I just thought that, she was just defiant, hard-headed, stubborn, and all that. That's what I really thought about her. Really did not know. But now that I'm in the situation and I look back, yes, there were some signs there that could have been addressed. I just didn't know that I needed to have them addressed.
How old was she when you first noticed some of the signs?
I want to say it maybe teens. Okay. Maybe teens. That's when her like she was just so aggressive and argumentative, and would just do some things that were just who in the heck does that? Just odd things. Room who couldn't keep nothing clean. That bedroom looked like it was disgusting, to be honest. It was just disgusting. When she was first diagnosed with bipolar disorder, because she was having manic episodes, and she was seeing spaceships on Bankhead. So they diagnosed her with bipolar first, which was incorrect. It was actually schizophrenia, because she was having delusions and hallucinations, and she's talking to herself. She's telling people to shut up, and we look around like, who we got to go fight? Who we fighting? I didn't know we was fighting voices in your head. So it started in her late teens, as far as that was concerned.
And I guess age doesn't matter, because Bretta, you were correct. It was 24 for Bretta, but I do have a friend that I recently found out she's going through the same thing, and she's 50.
And she's probably had something all along. It just something may have just triggered it.
Yeah, something triggers it.
She just can't take it anymore. You know, it's I don't know. It's people have to learn about this and understand this and quit calling people crazy because they're not crazy. You know, it's a real thing. It is a diagnosis. There is a treatment plan for it. There is things that can be done, you know, so people can live successful lives.
Yeah. And for the person that's experiencing it, they have to learn to accept it. Acceptance is the most important part of it.
That's the most important part. Bretta, do you have any, well, let me start with Tina. Do you have any words of encouragement, advice, or anything that you can share before we depart?
Just remember the person that has the mental illness. You just have to remember who they are or were before that. You just have to know that you have to be there to offer that support regardless. You know, because like I said, Bretta did a lot of hateful things. And if I was to take that for what it was, then I would not have been in her corner. But you just have to remember, this is my family member that has a problem, you know, like high blood pressure, diabetes, and they just need to accept their diagnosis and take whatever meds are needed to get them in a better place. Yeah. And I want to say to Bretta, I'm truly proud of you. All that you've done, you stop it. You've been through a lot, but for where you are right now, I want to say a miracle, but it's you. I wouldn't expect anything any less of you, and I love you.
Aww, she's a wimp.
Look at them sisters. Before we end, talk about livingdeep.org right quick.
Okay, that's one of my babies that I'm starting. I have always been a businesswoman, always. Yes. From, you know, selling donuts in school to selling candy to the students. You know, it's always been a businesswoman. And so Living Deep is one of my ventures that I want us as Black people to start recycling that dollar within our community, because other communities are thriving. And all we have to do is take note of what we're spending our money on and find somebody Black to do it, because we have every kind of business there is. And so Living Deep is just my way of giving back to the community that has given so much to me, and looking forward to making business relationships and starting, you know, investing in real estate again. And, you know, it's just my baby.
Yes.
And so I did a couple of blog entries. And with those blog entries, you'll start to see how my mind operates. And then who knows, I might be on Oprah Winfrey Show too.
Right. We're going to be on there. I'm telling you, we're going to be famous with. They're going to want to know, who's this girl that keeps talking about this mental health stuff? Who is that? That red-headed Black girl doing all that stuff. with her loud stuff. And she made it through the whole show without no curse words. I didn't even say no curse words. I did good.
You did good, Miss Jack. You did good.
All right. Well, I thank you guys so much for tuning in. Like I said, I cannot do this without my guests. My goal, I never knew about mental health. I didn't know what any of this stuff was until it was put in my face. And you know, we're all one step away from either becoming a patient or knowing someone who is a patient, or experience mental health and mental illness. We're all one trigger away. It can happen to anybody at any time. You could be extremely smart or not. There's no prototype for it. It just it can happen to any of us. So, you know, I didn't expect it, but I do want you to be prepared to know what it is and know what to do if you ever need to do it, So if you would like to be a guest on my show, or if you know anyone that would like to be a guest on my show, I would love, love, love to have you. You can follow me on Instagram. You can hit me up on any of my social media platforms at Mission for Mental Health. I got Mission for Mental Health 1. I got that Mission for Mental Health. That's mine. So anytime you click on Mission for Mental Health, you should be able to find me. I'm the one with the red hair. That's me. But if you would like to be a guest, reach out to me. If you want to refer a guest, let me know. I would love to have you, because the more, stories I'm able to share, the more I am able to heal other people, because healing is in the conversations. That is how we heal. But yes, do me a favor also, if you haven't, those of you that are watching, can you please subscribe, like, and share to my channel? Because that is what these folks like for you to do in order for me to get this to grow. I got to get y'all to subscribe to it, like it, and then share it with somebody you know. And it's always, I always like to let people know, if you know somebody that is struggling with mental health, or if you're in a crisis, or if you know someone that's in a crisis, guess what? They got something that you can hit called 988. 988, boo. And guess what? Somebody picks up the phone. Not 911, but 988. Someone they pick up the phone. So I appreciate you all. And tune in not next Wednesday, but the following Wednesday. You'll get a repeat next Wednesday, but the following Wednesday, I have another guest for you. It's going to be somebody near and dear to my heart that's going to talk about being diagnosed with COPD that has turned into emphysema, and the struggles that they're having because struggling with the ideas of end of life. It's going to be a difficult show, but we're going to get through it like we get through everything else. And I love you guys. And I will see you all next time on Mission for Mental Health. Have a good one. Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.
I guess I should have been ready to close out like I'm supposed to. Hold on, I'm coming. Here we go. Boom.
Miss Jackie.